Northrend revamp is so much bigger than we thought. Expanded continent. Is Northrend getting bigger? We know there's a Northrend revamp coming. We heard about it back at BlizzCon. But it's bigger than we thought. Let's see what Dorn, the truth teller, has to say.
We are actually going back to Northrend for the finale of the World Soul Saga, and it will be huge. I'm not talking about the updated graphics, some new models. I'm talking about how Northrend is going to be completely different with the recent updates, the new areas that we just got. We will discover Iridicron's gigantic tunnel citadel under Dragonblight with floating isles and lava pools, as well as Virenot's base in Storm Peaks. We will get
Look, I get Blizzard created some new tech that allows you to go underground without a portal or anything, and it's really cool. But I'm kind of sick of the underground shit, I'm not gonna lie. Now this stuff's not supposed to come in the War Within expansion. It's supposed to go further beyond. But can we stop going underground for a little bit? I like the sun and everything else.
Facilities, we will get a big follow-up with the Tuskar.
Although I'm excited for Hallowfall.
Most importantly, the Vrykul that could potentially be playable. Furthermore, we are in for Nerubians, Yoxtron's influence, and just a completely different Northrend than the one we had seen back in Wrath of the Lich King. So, what is Northrend going to look like in The Last Titan?
If you're watching this video, there's no way you know nothing about Warhammer 40,000, and today I got something super cool to show you. Warhammer 40,000 Tacticus, the perfect game for when you're on the go. Tacticus
Doran's
is
big
the
time now.
Warhammer 40,000 tactical mobile game set in the grim darkness of the far future. It is actually super fun and perfect to play on your phone. It's this tactical turn-based combat that gets more and more complex, and you really gotta start creating the right strategy in order to go further. It features these beautiful thematic hex battlefields, and you can collect, upgrade over 60 champions. You got fast-paced PvE, competitive PvP, and guild boss battles.
Try out the Adeptus Mechanicus faction,
the Tech Priests of
They're so profitable.
It's just one of the numerous available factions.
Every company's doing it.
Check out Tacticus. Join 3.5 million players playing this game, and you can download it completely free with my link in the description. Or
use the man's link.
Scan the QR code on the screen.
Scan the code. There you go. This way. Yeah, there it is.
As you may have all heard by this point, we are going to Northrend in the final expansion of the World Soul Saga, The Last Titan, and that, aside from the giant revamp of the Northern Eastern Kingdoms, may just
give me the Grizzly Hills music,
I'll be fine. Expansion out of all the three, as we are going back to Northrend, a revamped Northrend. We're essentially going to relive Wrath of the Lich King once again, which is, of course, going to be amazing.
You know what would have been really cool about going back to Northrend? Some really cool Lich King lore. Unfortunately, Shadowlands shat all over that. Yeah, Shadowlands fucking destroyed Lich King lore. So now anything I get out of going back to Northrend in terms of Lich King lore is going to be slightly tainted. It's going to have the slight taste of taint in it. Because Shadowlands done fucked it all up. Thanks, Blizzard.
This revamp is going to be so much more than just simply updating the models and keeping the place
Shadowlands,
safe,
never heard of it. Yeah,
graphics.
exactly.
Now,
Retcon it out of your brain.
We barely know anything. This is like 2 expansions from this point, so what is even the point of discussing it right now? And you're kind of right, but luckily, we actually do have some new information, actually quite a bit of information on what it is going to look like. First of all, we got 2 brand new books covering new zones and updates to the continent of Northrend, which will definitely be visually followed up in the new expansion.
Nice.
And we also have some post-BlizzCon interviews and some other hints that reveal some of the plans. So, while they didn't talk about the Last Titan specifically, they did talk about Midnight, and they explained how a revamp is going to work, which is going to be unlike anything we had ever seen back
Midnight
in
expansion, we're going to see an entire Elven revamp, essentially. The whole northern part of the Eastern Kingdoms is going to get revamped, including Silvermoon, which I cannot freaking wait to see. I've been talking about how we need that for a long time. I'm very excited for that. But that's what's happening at Midnight. We're going to see that revamped, and while we're doing that shit, they're going to be working on the Northrend revamp. So these are massive revamps. Like, these are big parts of these expansions, like cataclysmic style, and I'm really excited to see them.
Warcraft, they talked about enlarging water loss and not just simply updating the models, but completely rebuilding the zone. Their goal is to keep the same aesthetic and the old nostalgia feel, but also to add new storylines and new parts of the zones that will be relevant to the expansion. I think we can translate this exact same logic to The Last Titan and Northrend as well. Now, luckily, Northrend isn't actually in a nearly as bad of a situation as Quartalas is. I mean, Quartalas by this
True.
point looks
You can
like
fly
a
in Northrend.
PlayStation 2 game, and you can't even fly in there. While Northrend is quite a large continent with pretty decent-ish graphics, despite being only one expansion further than TBC.
Yeah,
However,
I actually went to the boring tundra not too long ago, and it still looks good, man. It still looks freaking good. Like, Northrend does not look that bad. I don't know if they revamped shit like prior to that in terms of their engines and everything, but it doesn't look too bad.
What is very important
But I would
note
like to
is
see
that
it look a
all the
little bit
events
better.
back from Wrath of the Lich King
Why
came in a
not?
really long time ago, and I mean so much has changed since then, like it is completely different at this point in time. Now, of course, I'm not only speculating
Kale
here,
sauce,
we
you
got
have to
about a
have
year
dragon
back the
riding.
book Exploring
I know
Azeroth
that.
Northrend, which was actually the official follow-up on the events, and it showed us what Northrend was like after the Shadowlands, so in the very recent
So you
past.
can't be
and
like
now
level
it is
2.
obvious that this has just been story building for the Last Titan and what will happen in that expansion and the entire World Soul Saga. Furthermore, we recently had the War of the Scaleborn book that was released only a few months back that gave us information on the ancient Dragon War, the entire aspect Primal Incarnate split, and while this might not be relevant as the previous book, it was based in Northrend and it added a bunch of new locations and new characters that we will very likely see in Northrend in the Last
I'm sure we'll get more
For
dragon
example,
lore.
we know that Iridicron had a really big base there called Herod's Deep, which is somewhere around Dragonblight, and this was where the Primal Incarnate faction center of power was when Iridicron apparently usurped power
We
from
might play through much of what we saw with Neltharion, where Iridicron might be dead at this point, but we go back into we find his lair, and we start to explore more and realize more about the Titans and how really fucked up they were, and why Iridicron hated them so much, and then we go battle, and the whole Last Titan shit happens and everything else. Like, that would make sense to me. I just don't see Iridicron surviving until the Last Titan. I feel like he's going to be dead by then. We're going to kill him.
rock. He had massive tunnels dug out beneath the zone that he could control with earth magic so that he could change the direction of the tunnels to make the intruders lose their way. This was massive, and I mean massive. It had a magma lake, several islands of stone, central platform where he led from, with a floating island as well, and keep in mind, all
Yeah, I'll have
this
to
is
check it out,
underground.
Cadence.
Some speculate this could be a part of the cavern system that Arthas got lost in back in Warcraft 3, but I digress. The important thing to note is that they added this in the lore just now, and we had the Iridicron cinematic like a week back, and he really seems to be saved for a really long-term villain, waiting for the Titans to arrive, which will be happening in the Last Titan. So, almost certainly, you can expect him to revive his old base of operations, and this could either be a new
Makes
raid
sense.
or maybe even a new zone like the Zerala Caverns,
Iridicron
but
did nothing
bigger,
wrong.
unless people just get really bored of the underground stuff by the World Soul Saga finale. Furthermore,
That's the thing, though. I'm kind of like, okay, we went underground for the Zarlek Cavern shit. We're going underground a little bit here in the War Within. Like, are we gonna keep doing? Like, I understand Blizzard made a new tech. We could go underground, but we don't have to do it every fucking expansion now. Okay, we might be sick of it by then. Halofall, the one thing it has going for it is it's not dark and dusty and fucking grimy like the other underground shit is. It's got this massive crystal that acts like a sun, so it's pretty cool. It has some badass lore. It's some really cool looking paladin humans in it. But other than that, I think I'll be done with underground stuff. Thank you. I'll stay above
info
ground.
on Iridicron's sister that was transformed into a Titan Dragon, which could definitely play a big role in the Last Titan as well. Second in the book,
We
we
did the
had
Niffin, yeah, the
Frozen
Niffin be sniffing.
Fangs, which was the home of Viranot, which is now on our side, and you can imagine, unless she betrays us by this point, this could be our new base of operations. It was a frozen area, most likely around the northern coast of Icecrown and the Storm Peaks. Now keep in mind, all this info is just from the War of the Scaleborn book, but we also had more general lore all throughout Dragonflight, and there was even a small revamp of Dragonflight in the Dawn of the Infinite instance as well. However, that is just for the new zones, but as I said, the other book, Exploring
lot.
Azeroth Northrend, actually gave
Watch
us
it on
information
YouTube,
on
Derek.
the zones that we're already familiar with, which means we have a general direction how we could expect the old zones to look like now. As I said, it is very likely they may have enlarged and we could get a very different kind of Northrend, but
We
what
could.
will these zones actually be like? So one of the things that I find very interesting is that the big Titan guy that has been patrolling, that you guys may remember back from Rat, is actually missing. This is not just my speculation, they said this in the book, and all of you that played Rat may remember that this guy was as big as like half of the zone.
Yeah,
Apparently,
he was
no
fucking
one
huge.
has seen him since, and I feel like
Oh,
this
really?
may be foreshadowing for him, possibly knowing about the Return of the Titans, or even more importantly,
damn.
he may have access
The
some
disappearance of a giant NPC, I think there's definitely something behind that.
new part of Northrend we had never seen, as where else could a guy this big actually hide so that no one can see him or find him? I think the most natural thing to expect is that we will get a really big update to Storm Peaks and Ulduar in particular, so the Titan areas. You may remember that Ulduar was the main base of the Titans on Azeroth, and I think there are parts of it that we have never heard about. Remember that part of Northrend that had all the machinery that was used by the jailer? We also had no idea about.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Ulduar, we will discover much bigger things.
Maybe we'll actually go see. Look at all these skulls around here. I always thought that was interesting, all this shit. But yeah, maybe we'll actually go see this thing. We didn't even know this freaking existed. Was this supposed to be like directly beneath Ice Crown? Because it shot the beam out through the roof. I think it was. We never even saw this. Maybe we'll go see it underground.
Different mechanisms. Remember the lore, the Titans built a ton of facilities.
I'll post what I said about
America,
Corporate America Darth on YouTube later.
One purpose, but at the same time they had another. We had uncovered so many of these facilities all throughout Azeroth. Some were brainwashing lives, some were meant to blow up the entire planet and destroy the entire world apart. I think the Titans, as beings of order, may have predicted that at some point they may have to come here in person as the void corruption gets too bad, which is probably going to happen, and for that they might have built something around the main facilities that we will uncover, and that is why I think a whole zone may be completely revamped as this gets revealed, and this also may be where this guy
in the dungeon Forge of Souls. Oh shit!
Expect some massive monument or some big event.
Why did I never make that connection?
Northrend, something akin to the sword of Sargeras and Silitus. In fact, it is even possible that Sargeras himself may come, causing some structural changes to the entire continent, but just the arrival of the Pantheon in person may be enough to cause all this stuff. The entire prison mechanism that is obviously hidden in plain sight in the logo may be related to Northrend and what we will see there. However, while the last Titan will obviously be
a lot of Titan facilities in Northrend, some of the biggest ones in the game. So yeah, I think that's certainly going to be relevant to the imprisonment mechanism that's currently holding Azeroth.
The Titans and everything, we still have a ton of
I like the idea of going full circle. I agree, Achilles.
That are going to get updated that might even be more exciting. Personally, I find this part the most exciting as
maybe, just maybe, boys, we get, what is it? Playable Vrykul. I think that would be cool. Honestly, like as far as playable races go, playable Vrykul. Imagine a fucking Vrykul warrior or Death Knight. Oh shit. That'd be cool.
Personally, I find this part the most
That'd be
exciting.
A cool playable
we're
race.
Going to get updates.
I'd be down for that.
We're going to reunite with a lot of the old iconic characters and races. So, first of all, with the dragon craziness we got this year and the books and all this info and the Ridicon, you can expect big changes to Dragonflight in particular and pretty much all the other zones in Northrend, as dragons have been an instrumental part of the entire continent. Then, we should get big updates to the Scourge and the ultimate finale of the Lich King storyline. We know the Lich King is obviously no more, the Scourge has been shattered, but
yeah, unfortunately.
Who knows what happened? It is kind of a bit of a loose end at this point. Maybe Rogue Lieutenants took over and formed a new Scourge faction, and they will be our enemies, or a part of the Scourge may
what happened? There must always be a Lich King.
So it can really go either way. Next down the line is we're getting the Troll Heritage.
We'll get Tuskar before
the Amani should be relevant in Midnight. I could totally see a whole patch being dedicated to Zuldrak and the Ice Trolls. You might remember these guys. They had an entire zone back in the day and a massive kingdom.
They really had a lot of the same models as the Amani trolls. We haven't gotten that yet, the buff troll model, but and they were blue. So yeah, I'm sure Blizzard will add a blue skin to the trolls and be like, look, you can be a Northrend troll now.
That was destroyed by the Scourge that we played through. With most of the trolls being friendly now, I can see this kingdom being rebuilt, Ice Trolls becoming a customization we could play as, and Zuldrak being one of our bases of operations, seeing it is so close to the entire Titan side of things in Northrend. Along with the iconic races, I think we're going to get a big Tuskar storyline as well, similar to the one we got in Dragonflight, and if they don't become playable by that point in time, I don't think it is
before the end of Dragonflight. Mark my words, boys, playable Tuskar will happen before the end of Dragonflight. They're just holding it back. It's gonna happen. Don't worry. Still got time.
What has been confirmed to be
relevant pre-patch for the next expansion or something.
Dwarves. I've got a few videos on this if you want the details from the book, but long story short, there was a big storyline with the Bronzebeards reuniting with the Ice Dwarves, sort of proclaiming that they're one and just inviting them to Ironforge to sort of join the alliance. I could see Ice Dwarves being big allies to both factions in our new Northern campaign, and I could also see them as a playable customization as they're so similar to regular Dwarves. From the Horde side of things, I think we're going to get back with the Tonka, and we also are
the
going to get them
Tonka.
playable. We got some minor updates
Forgot
on them in the
about
books that showed us that they actually lost some ground, that are not in the best shape they were, but I could definitely see them being a relevant asset soon. Most interesting though, I think we may be getting big updates to the Reichel. This is something so many people are excited
These
about,
guys
and I think it is about time we
would be a
get
cool
them
playable
actually
race.
playable. We're
I
getting
love
big
this music,
information
man.
about the Titan Forge. How many of these races were not exactly willingly helping the Titans. Many
Fucking
of them
love
were
this music.
enslaved. I think we're going to get a big storyline with the entire Titan Forge, the Earthen, and all those races around Ulduar. And alongside them,
Nerubian
I could
mods.
see a big Reichel update, as after all, the Reichel are former Titan Forge that are now independent. We're also
True.
getting a ton of human lore with these new Arati. We're getting tiers. So with the Titans coming back, I could see us finding common ground with the Reichel, which could
They
give
have
them
great
a
animations.
good
Like
reason to
the
join
Vrykul are
us as
a well fleshed out race. Like they have so many different different beard styles, different animations, the way they move, the way they wear armor. Like look, I mean, he's got a mining animation, man.
They're getting tiers,
Like,
so with the Titans
these
coming
guys
back,
are,
I could
these guys
see
are ready to
us
be playable.
finding common ground with the Reichel,
Blizzard just got to click the switch and be like, all right, flick the switch. It's playable now.
which could give them a good reason to join us, as previously they were allied with the Scourge. Now
Let
they
me be a
don't have
Murloc,
anyone unless they decide to join the Titan faction. Now, while we're talking about Northrend, we can't not mention the Nerubians and Yoxeron. This is, of course, super hard to predict. A different band of them is going to be relevant in the War Within, but depending on how
happened
that
now?
goes, I could totally see Nerubians being a huge
Murlocs.
part of the last Titan. As they used to be our allies, we know they rebelled against Yoxeron. As I said, super hard to predict this early what could happen, but if the Nerubians become playable before that, they're 100% going to be super important in this expansion. Now, with Yoxeron,
Yeah, I'm sure
it
they
is
will
also
be.
super hard to say as well, seeing that we might deal with Zalatat and all the Void and all that stuff at midnight, so that might be done by that point, but I do feel like it's going to have some impact, at least through the Nerubians. What is really interesting though, and once again, this is hard to say, but Avaloran could potentially be above Northrend, sort of north of Northrend, where those Titan heretics are that rebelled against the Titans, with maybe a new human kingdom there as well. So,
Oh yeah,
unless
I love it.
Avaloran
New human king. We can't have enough human kingdoms. I'm not being sarcastic. I fucking love human architecture and everything. Maybe call me boring. Something about a cool castle. I just like it. Okay, so I would like to see this. Murlocs will not be playable, guys. Cut that shit out. It's not gonna happen. And what do I think about Naga? Naga will be. I don't know if they're gonna be playable, but we're gonna address Naga in Midnight, because we're dealing with the elves and the Naga were elves. So I mean that makes sense. Yes, we will see Naga in Midnight. So that's gonna happen. I don't know if they'll become a playable race though.
as well. So unless Avaloran happens in the War Within or Midnight, which I personally think is going to be the timing,
Don't
we
listen to
could see
Drake.
a brand new island off the coast of Northrend as well. Now, another
Just trying to
really
taper your
interesting thing that
expectations.
is once again too early to say, but that is that Dalaran could
right, give us
actually
Lord
return.
around.
Personally, I feel like Dalaran may even settle back to the ground in Midnight, which could be a big possibility, but for the
That would
nostalgia
be cool.
purpose, Dalaran flying back to the Crystal Song in Northrend could be a huge selling point. You all know Blizzard is about bringing back the peak of Warcraft. That is why they're doing this entire World Soul Saga thing, bringing back Northrend, which was when WoW hit the most.
I honestly think I'm ready for Dalaran to come back to the ground. I'm moving Dalaran between expansions to me feels lazy. It's like, oh, we can't make a hub city. Let's just grab Dalaran and throw it above that new continent that we're gonna do. I don't know. I think I'm done with Dalaran as a city. I'm fine with it landing. That'd be kind of cool to see where it originally was.
Amount of players. So from a
We know where it
marketing
originally
purpose,
was.
I
It's a
think
freaking
floating
giant
Dalaran could be
crater.
a huge point in getting
be cool
all
to put it
players
back.
to try out the new expansion. Overall though, the entire revamp of Northern The Last Titan will potentially be the most exciting feature of the
What's up,
entire
mister?
saga.
Good morning.
Don't forget to check out Wargamer 40,000.
Oh, he's hitting us with a
packages that you can
double ad
download
today?
With my link in the description or the
Jesus,
QR code
Doran.
on the screen.
There you go. Use the QR code again. This
Thank
way.
you for watching. Check out the new Drana City that may be coming by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on ancient Greek colonies in Spain by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.
Yeah. Northrend revamp confirmed. It is coming. This is not a Doran speculation. That is happening. How big the revamp will be? I think he's right. It will be an expanded revamp. It will be huge, massive, and I'm excited to see it. Going back to Northrend, hearing those Grizzly Hills tunes. I mean, does it get better than that? I don't think so.